Hi, I'm Andy Luke. You're watching the Christmas 2025 edition of Screencleaner. Yeah, I know. So, what have we got for you this time? Well, as we prepare to celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Pangenelia Christ, let's all say a prayer for Nigel Farage. Some of you have prayed that his teenage racism and adoption of Nazi ideology wouldn't be forgotten. Accusations from college pupils have risen to 28, add in the staff, and that's well over 30. Some of you show devotion to the Holy Pantheon and ask if Farage and reform might be looked at for electoral fraud. Lo and behold, Santa isn't waiting. The boys in blue are looking into the red and white festooned bar with broadband, temporarily stored in the back of an armoured Land Rover, wrapped up with little bullies election posters. The man who got a whistle in his cracker, holding the smoking cigar, is ex-reform and an accountant. Of course, not all Farage's presence could fit. 8 MEPs linked to UKIP and the Brexit Party, groups still connected to reform at Company's House, are in the police investigation through Nathan Gill and the Kremlin. Three in particular, Jonathan Bullock, Julia Reid, and Stephen Wolfe. They followed the script given by Gill in interviews with pro-Russian TV station 112 Ukraine. These propaganda exclusives were arranged by Gill and two Ukrainian politicians of Putin chumminess, Viktor Medvedchuk and Oleg Voloshin. WhatsApp messages that discussed transfers of money and gifts to Gill's lead secretary at Gammon in Brussels, Ethan Wilkinson. Brexit Party MEPs Alex Phillips, James Wells, and Jonathan Arnott are also named by The Guardian. Arnott did a Putin Loves Ukraine TV interview too, not very patriotic. The eighth friend of Farage Incorporated is criminal face David Coburn. The Brexit Party member and former UKIP MEP is rumoured to have been on the board of 112 Ukraine and appears in Gill's Putin tap messages as someone to set aside money for. Coburn was UKIP's Scottish leader from 2014 to 2018. It's a shit in Farage's stocking as he talks about taking his fight north of the border. His Glasgow grift, booming booty, is that less than 1 in 3 children only speak English as a second language. Yeah, but that figure is just under 21k. The other 50k list English as a first language. The 2024 Scottish pupil census showed nearly 1 in 3 Scots kids can speak 2 languages, whereas Farage speaks with 2 tongues. Important difference. One of those children Farage weaponised is all grown up Labour MP for Glasgow and transplant surgeon Dr. Zubair Ahmed. Glasgow has plenty of challenges, but your hissing snake oil Putinist fifth column politics will be rejected. Didn't his language skills develop admirably? And this just in, Reform Councillor for Seaham, Andree Harrison, employed an illegal worker in his company, Churchill's Management. The company was fined £40,000. Jesus, Reform, I'm trying to keep this show under 40 minutes, and I still have to do the longest section on AI. AI isn't just for Christmas, but it would be nice if it was. This time last year, it was possible to ignore artificial intelligence if you were a big enough wanker, and I love masturbating. But nowadays, type something into Google and you're immediately co-opted into this worldwide circle jerk with even less self-worth. AI regularly intrudes on my life. I often run paid promotions on my YouTube videos only to be told I'm in breach of election advertising in the US and UK, quite apart from any elections happening. My own mother got taken off Facebook for impersonating Marilyn Monroe, who died before AI was even a cursor. Just last week, comics historians and community figures David Roach, Michael Carroll, and Peter Gray had their accounts pulled down. Thanks, AI. With a background in the comics arts, I'm acutely aware of how illustrators and creative writers are undercut in paid employment by artificial intelligence. A lot of the problems come because people think AI is free. It really isn't. The high cost begins with the natural environment. Data centers housing AI require huge amounts of raw materials, 800 kilograms for a 2 kilogram PC, and microchips mined in environmentally destructive ways. Production of electronic waste. And the UN Environmental Programme says these hazards include mercury and lead. Number 3, use of water in data center operations, constructing and cooling primarily, globally, soon consuming 6 times more water than Denmark. 1/4 of humanity already lacks clean water. 1/4 of humanity already lacks clean water. So pro AI users may as well wash your hands in semen. An AI request has a low water footprint, 30 milliliters, but it adds up with many. And of course, around the globe, we're still reliant on burning fossil fuels. The International Energy Agency states a ChatGPT request uses 10 times the electricity of a Google search. Of course, now we get both. In 2026, a rise of AI data centers in Ireland could account for 35% of the country's energy use. And that's just a republic. ChatGPT requests are relatively low compared to other online data activities. 26.5 ChatGPT requests is equivalent to an hour watching Netflix, says JISC. This moment with commentator Matthew Syed stepped out to me in watching a recent episode of Question Time.
Imagine using, I want to say it, using AI, which I think is perfectly conceivable, to create a pathogen with a high infection fatality rate and a long incubation period. There's no a priori bar on that being created. It could already be out there. We've already posted the DNA for Spanish flu on the internet. How many people do you think work in the Bacteriological Weapons Convention, which polices this kind of thing? 2 people. Its budget is the same as an average McDonald's. The great polymath, E.O. Wilson, said we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, but godlike technology. That is the danger we face right now as a species.
190 countries and big blocs like the EU and US have non-binding recommendations on ethical use of AI. But looking at how seriously they've taken the climate change targets, don't hold your breath. A study at the University of China looking at AI energy use and emissions considers an increased threat the more a system is capable of, and the more ways it exercises, the more a threat it poses. If a search request costs a small bottle of water, an animation might cost a couple of kegs. And next year's ChatGPT version will be thirstier. MIT's Adams Yu reports on increased pressures on the electric grid as generative AI is fine-tuned, straining municipal water supplies and local ecosystems. Maybe if we dived into solar and wind energy, it would be partly sustainable, but we didn't because our species are dickheads. Artificial intelligence isn't even remotely setting that up for us, nor curing cancer either. It hasn't tidied up my room. Look at the state of this fucking place. AI sits in the corner, eating family-sized bags of megawatts and laughing at us, scratching its bum. Sure, it helps us spend our cash by auto-completing bank details. It dresses up as Alexa and Siri, and if it's in the right mood, it might spell check its own audio transcriptions. There's a lot of scrutiny on how AI is funded. The conclusion is that AI is funded by other AI firms, and it's a bubble that might just burst before too long. AI isn't one of those things you have to learn before you get left behind. It's something that already has. You have no hope of catching it up. You can never master it, only mitigate it. And it seems to me the more we teach AI and feed it, the more harm we do. It's already breaking up social connections. It creates any old data to support the claims that it wants you to be able to make. Fake data for fear-mongering, deep fakes for fraud. Automation costing jobs, And when AI does learn to drive your truck or deliver your home help to the elderly, will your bosses say, well, here's some money we saved. Your pay packet will be a little more or less this month. Likely be, you won't get paid at all. Living off a flatmate's cheese because it's the only thing in the fridge. The end point to AI isn't less work, it's no home. AI was supposed to go to work for me so I could learn how to paint and write songs, instead of taking that journey of discovery away from me. Arts and culture industries are where AI has already hit the hardest. Online bookstores swamp personal memoirs beneath robotic facsimiles of life. Illustrators are back in the dough because having an idea is tantamount to being an artist. Soulless, uncanny vanity, bad replications too. If you want art, pay for it. Commission an artist. Collaborate with your friends. Put $1 in someone's pocket.
First things first, you're going to put $1 in my pocket, both of you.
Draw something yourself. You aren't trying to paint the Sistine Chapel. We have copyright-free material. Copyrighted material that belongs to someone else that can be deployed under a range of fair use exemptions. Material specifically published under Creative Commons licenses, which is free to use. These are found on sites like Pexels or Pixabay. Photo and video of a professional standard. And the only cost is to credit the name of the creator. Maybe send them a donation. Sometimes it doesn't even include that stipulation. AI breaks up teamwork by omitting an artistic contributor. Wouldn't your time with tech be better spent making those human contacts? Now, Screencleaner has been accused of favouring a YouTuber ratty, but none of them would take my calls this week. Bastards. I asked for a 4-minute gift from Git, ordinary bloke, and part-time therapy producer David Clay, better known as Accies. So here he is.
Hello. I was just swithering whether to do this or no, but at the end of the day, it's my thoughts, you know. I'm basically talking about you watch other streams and some of them are still linked, are still fascinated with Keir Starmer. Talking about he's basically a nice guy, real down at heart and nice fella, and that just doesn't compute with me. You know what I mean? A nice fella doesn't lie to get into position. Doesn't drop everything that he said he was going to do, betraying basically his party. I don't see the guy as a nice guy at all. At the end of the day, and this might be controversial, right? I look at Keir Starmer and I say to myself, the actual personality of the man, right? Now, I know he was in charge of the justice system, right? Okay, and he get a lot done, right? Obviously, his other things regarding peace and that, you know. But I think he's the type of man who reminds me. I'll tell you who he does remind me. It reminds me Adolf Eichmann, right? No, in that Nazi sense, you know. I'm talking about Eichmann get given a task, and irregardless of the damage that he done, right, the damage it caused innocent people, their lives, he kept the trains going. And that's the way I see Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is a doer. If he's given a task, he will do it. At the end of the day, I just can't think how these people would say that he was a nice guy. I mean, a nice guy doesn't bloody deliberately bloody starve kids. He doesn't bloody punch down and go for the weak and the disabled, you know, and the people that can't help themselves. I mean, we all know the Tories are just Tories. You know what you're getting with the Tories, but no with this Labour Party, for God's sake, you know what I mean? The actual thing about it right, which I still can't fathom it, right, is that he's there, right, okay, and he's basically in bed, if you think about it. He's a pound shop Tory. Now, they call themselves the blue, was it Blue Labour? Red Tories, that's all they are. We've been calling them for years. But I don't think that there's no way I would say that man was kind. No, deep down in my heart. No, I can't do it. He doesn't care about people. Honestly, I think that. That's up to you, is whether you want to take that whatever way you want. It's just my thoughts. That's all I can tell you.
Doctor Who fandom has been through changes over the years. An odd, harmless, likeable group, unfairly maligned as smelling of urine by a tabloid class, themselves smelling of hacked mobile phones. For a few years they were super cool, embraced by all, except those who made up stories of misogyny. Then there was the age of anti-woke, often confused with not calling out racism and atrocious storytelling. Unusually, the loud, awful, clingy poo fandom were the same who openly praised the spin-off Torchwood, which is a thinly veiled rapist's manifesto.
Oh, I just wanna fucking suck, everyone. I just wanna fucking suck, oh, the whole night through.
Comparisons to Torchwood had me sceptical about new franchise offering The Land Between the War and the Sea, which aired its first 2 episodes recently. No spoilers, it didn't set my world on fire, but it was an enjoyable affair. What's most notable in the show making its mark is its visual appeal. It had me thinking a lot about Game of Thrones and how that show took the natural environment and used it in service of prestige television. See also Breaking Bad. Land looks, simply put, stunning, big and cinematic. Utilising the environment is important because as the story unfolds, ecological issues are shown to be at the centre of it. The title is quite literal. It's issue-led television, but because it's sci-fi, it manages to do this quite well. Natural and man-made landmarks are tapped successfully to create a jarring, preternatural experience, at once iconic and demonic. Indeed, there's a casual pacing in its approach to horror, which I found refreshing. There's also blooming parliamentary politics in the story, putting me in mind of 90s series Babylon 5. Good company to be in. War Between the Land and the Sea shares with Torchwood the starter idea of a civilian embed within a military unit, which takes us from the roots of unit in the Pertwee era of the show. Russell Tovey plays an everyman in over his head, and by episode 2 gets more to do than quack. Gemma Redgrave brings an alpha presence to proceedings as a head of unit. The standout is Gugu Mbatha Raw as Salt, representative of the Sea Devils, acting up with subtle nuance and lead powerhouse. The casting is great, though some of the acting choices cause a disconnect with the script. Perhaps this could have benefited from directorial pushback, but I'm nitpicking. This is quality drama escapism. It even manages to be quite funny as it picks up the pace. YouTube, where vocal pronouncements on whether Doctor Who encourages kitty diddling or should win a Nobel Peace Prize, seems to be on the same happy page as me, or at least follows the same narrative as each other. Rest assured, by the time the finale, episode 5, comes around, it will have ruined Christmas. But until then, it promises to be an enjoyable enough journey. Now, we're maybe halfway through, so let's take a broad look around the news this week. The mass boycott of the Eurovision Song Contest over Israel's inclusion looks set to lever out the proponents of the new Holocaust. Look forward to Netanyahu's tears, if they ever come, being electronically sampled for lols. Morgan McSweeney visits Britain's largest synagogue to out the worshippers as members of Nazi high command. Well, probably. I wonder why I get turned down for YouTube promotions. Liz Trust TV makes its UK debut. It's okay for Angela Rayner to speak now that Rachel Reeves has been fingered. Fears grow over the fate of Jim Shannon. The DUP MLA who represents Strangford is a fixture in Parliament, but when it closes for Christmas on December 19th, it's not known what will become of him. Janitors are adamant the building will be locked and he won't be allowed to stay. Screencleaner's new campaign, Shelter for Shannon, is aimed at getting Shannon to Stranraer to Strangford. We hope you'll send him cuddly toys, Farage rusks, and bottle heaters for warm milk. Now, universal credit isn't just for Christmas. It's for Christmas next year. But all the days in between can get fucked. Universal credit is a British welfare state benefit acting as a catch-all replacement for housing benefit, job seekers allowance, incapacity benefit, and others. It has many problems, one of the most prominent of which is just plain English language. Once a month, I'm required to report my income as a self-employed person receiving benefit help, as opposed to once a year with my taxes. And this example is a perfect window into its frankly ludicrous layout, and where the department may as well just be saying standard allowance 393, housing 476, okay. Then we cannot pay more than the local allowance rate minus 308, which suggests that has been subtracted from 476, making me needlessly mad, as if 116 twice a month wasn't mad enough. If I add 476 and 308, I get the amount my rent is. The 250 transitional protection, linking, and other benefits seems to imply this is some amount to help with extra costs regarding my disabilities. Except it wasn't, and I still have no idea why it's there. Previously, I received a disability benefit. Much later, after a year actually, I was told about LCWRA. This stands for Limited Capability for Work and Work-Related Activity. Asking to begin the application process, I was told I could not, and I did not have any disabilities.
Tell him. Starburst.
To claim the LCWRA component, I had to undergo a full marathon level application, similar to PIP, and turn in my entire medical history. The process from submission to decision took 5 months. So going back to the 116 statement, total entitlement for this month is 1,120, which tracks from the figures quoted above, built in because now we're going to look at how the civil servants will subtract 80% of that. Take-home pay is minus £856. Has it ever come to payday and you've been told by your employer to cough up? That's not dissimilar to what's happening here. The explanation of take-home pay provides no enlightenment. I haven't earned enough for this month to be eligible for tax, national insurance, or pension contributions. There's no visible relation or explanation between the figures 855, 722, and 1556. You don't get one figure from adding the other two up, or arrive at one of the figures by subtracting one from the big ones. It's Britain's most unsatisfying crossword. Unfortunately, I do know what the minimum income floor is. It's a fucking headache. In the old system, a self-employed person would report their earnings. Shortfalls would be topped up to living standards. Earn too much, and you pay into the state coffers. Job's a good one. The minimum income floor, or MIF, is not applied in year one of self-employment. From year 2 onwards, MIS states that those who are self-employed should be earning equivalent to an employed person on minimum wage on a 40-hour week. And frankly, that's preposterous. Go to any government business agency, leading peers in self-employment. Go to bloody Stephen Bartlett if that's what it takes. There's consensus right across the board that it takes 3 to 5 years to become profitable in self-employment. Oh, but oh no, in universal credit, it's magic wand stuff. If you don't earn the minimum wage amount decreed, then you fail to qualify for benefits. It's a seismic game changer and one which I and many others weren't informed about. So is this why I've earned minus £856? My wages for this period seem to have been £843. Were they £855? How do we arrive at £722? 55p of every pound of all my earnings are taken by the state, but neither the 55% or 45% are reflected in this tally. This gives us a monthly grant deduction of £886 and a payment of £233. The mysterious take-home pay subtraction and the advanced loan subtraction make up the total subtraction. But look, it comes out of nowhere. Not even the paltry fortnightly £116 payment totals up to the monthly total. I was hoping to explain how this translates in English, but I can't do that. I have an Oxford bachelor's degree in communications, and I can't understand this. These reports show a department strategy with the professionalism of a shite. In a private conversation with a senior figure at a jobs and benefits office, I was told the staff were given inadequate preparation and training for dealing with self-employed people. Unemployment benefit is relatively straightforward, but self-employment is an income which is often sliding. Application of benefit must slide with it, and the policy is not flexible. Benefits officers are implementing a system they don't understand, don't like, and have little flexibility for interpreting. In Guatemala, the beginning of the Christmas season is marked by the burning of the devil. This year, Trump's head goes flambé in effigy, described by the organizers as the little tyrant. Earlier this week, the US National Security Strategy release claimed Europe was overregulated and facing civilizational erasure. Trump followed this with a press conference, calling European leaders weak, indecisive, and politically correct. Provocative, antagonistic, but really usual Trump bump. The dementia in chief embracing Europhobia, which peaked back in 2016. It's common for Donald Trump, who is a convicted sex offender, to be late to fashion. Wearing dead poultry on your head went out of fashion after Spitting Image's 1986 hit, The Chicken Song. And he continues a failed mismatch of Fatsuit XXL for a grown man with Pampers Premium Protection new baby nappies. Say, do you like Panto?
My name's Phil, and I like talking a load of bollocks. Now, I used to be a school geography teacher, so I keep my eyes on events for the little ones. This includes those in many of our racist coastal towns where the distinctly British pantomime occurs. So, without further ado, wait a minute, Phil. You should probably explain the pantos are adaptations of folk plays with celebrities and audience interactions, and they're not only in racist areas. Don't interrupt me, Graham. I know what they are. Maybe for our overseas viewers you could explain or provide a citation. Maybe you should go back to your cupboard under the stairs. I'm telling this story, and that's the way it is, because that's the truth of what's happened. God's honest, whole truth, and nothing but. Now, one day Zach Golden Boy was foraging about in the woods, because he's a green, you see, and that's what they do. Anyway, that doesn't matter. He found a house which wasn't his and decided to claim it under squatters' rights, which hasn't been a thing since the 12th century. Actually, I think you'll find... Graham, do you want sandwiches or no sandwiches? Right. Zach Golden Boy found himself in the kitchen and helped himself to members' rate porridge, thus destabilizing European porridge markets. Phil, I don't think that's true. We're outside the EU, so I'm telling you, if you just listen. So then Zach got into a chair, but that wasn't right either, so he went to the bedroom. 5 minutes later, the front door opened, and in walked the house's proper owners, because this was the house of the three fascists. There was Daddy Fascist, Zia Yusuf, not Farage Fascist. No, Graham, he wanted to. He actually applied for the role of Goldilocks because he loves being the centre of attention. But Nigel has already been in the panto 38 times. They turned him down, and he told everyone it wasn't worth his time. So there was Mummy Fascist Keir Starmer, who looked all around the kitchen and saw the opened box of porridge and tapped on his earpod and asked Morgan McSweeney what the correct reaction should be. And there was little baby fascist Kemi Badnock, who tugged Zia Yusuf's arm and asked what they should do. It was the blacks, said Zia Daddy Fascist. Yes, that's right, and anti-Semite Martian racist blacks like your party, said Keir Mummy Fascist. And then Mummy Fascist got an electroshock in the lobe from mentioning Corbyn's name. Something, something, yada, yada, said Baby Fascist, but no one cared to listen because she was a nasty little golem. Just then, Speaker Lindsay Hoyle entered.
If people want to audition for a pantomime, I suggest you go to the Old Vic.
Speaker Hoyle said that Zia Yusuf Fascist had no business being in the House because he wasn't a democratically elected member of Parliament. He's behind you, yelled Baby Fascist. Mummy Fascist picked up the kettle and waved it at the Speaker, who fled because the Speaker is allergic to kettles. Now, we're going to get to the bottom of this porridge loss, which was obviously caused by Baby Fascist in tandem with immigrants. The three fascists entered the committee room and sat down on their chairs. As you'll recall, Zach Goldenboy had sat on them, but it would be wholly unconvincing if anyone had noticed. You'd have to be some kind of butt detectives. An immigrant sat on this chair. It's giving me piles, said Daddy Fascist. This chair has obviously been sat on by another chair, a chair which is a prescribed terrorist organisation, said Mummy Fascist. And Baby Fascist said, I don't really serve any narrative purpose within the story structure. I'm the same as these two, a stock character, but I do have big teeth. Let's make this Red Riding Hood instead. Yes, I'll be red because I care about the working people, said Mummy Fascist, who'd already forgotten about the porridge. Daddy Fascist shook his head angrily and said, well, you were so very quick to condemn Putin, who's done a lot of good things for us, like free selection boxes for patriots. Morgan says we should go through to the bedroom, said Mummy Fascist. Daddy Fascist agreed. I've been masturbating vigorously, and I'm quite tired. I could sleep. And Baby Fascist said, it's not the Hilton. Can we put this on expenses? And Morgan McSweeney said, don't put it on expenses, Keith, and don't get caught. Daddy Fascist pulled back the covers of his bed and gasped. Someone's pooped in your bed, said Mummy Fascist. Someone had also pooped in Mummy Fascist's bed. Someone's pooped in my bed, said Baby Fascist. Immigrants! But at that moment they were all keeping stump from having pooped in their own beds. Suddenly there was a noise outside. Workmen with a washing machine. That one's Chinese, guldered Baby Fascist. They rushed downstairs to find Zach Goldenboy waiting for them. The first thing we need to do is toilet train you, said Zach. Fuck all that, you Sassenachs, boomed a voice from above. Stephen Flynn jumped from the rafters and delivered a roundhouse kick, tearing Baby Fascist's head clean off her body. Yippee-ki-yay, mofos, he yelled. Daddy Fascist picked up Baby Fascist's head and wore it like a mask. Now I am both fascists. I is doing Tory face. It is my dream come true. Well, it is recycling, but it doesn't go far enough, said Zach Goldenboy. Mummy Fascist ran at him, and Zach put his foot out. Keir Fascist tripped and flew out the door into a wood chipper and got shredded. His screams of pain created sensory feedback to his man in Downing Street, Morgan McSweeney, who suffered internal bleeding in his rectum. Zia Yusuf Fascist picked up Keir Starmer's mangled face and put it on his. Now I have 3 faces. Nah, said Stephen Flynn. Starmer was two-faced. Daddy Fascist did the maths. Now I have 666 faces, and I'm perfectly able to stop the quadrillion, billion, gazillion refugees that are coming. I don't think so, said Goldenboy. Yeah, get to fuck, said Flynn, without using the letter C in the spelling. They stamped up and down on the beast repeatedly until he was as flat as a flag and hoisted him up to the top of the cottage as a warning to the next gammon prat that if they tried to see him, they'd be knocked out. The end.
You've been watching the last Screencleaner of the series. The reception has been better than I'd hoped for, especially with engagement, like and comment. Good enough for me to want another crack at it in 2016. No, 2026. My powers aren't that awesome. The spirit of Screencleaner will be kept alive on this channel with my videos on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Doctor Who, Press Gang, and on my sister channel, I've Never Read Discworld. I have a few people I'd like to thank for making this possible. Alex Eels in particular, who comes up with the wonderful theme tune that you hear, and the beautiful Screencleaner logo. And you can check out his wonderful portrait art at deviantart.com/foodie. There's a link in the description. I'd also like to thank contributors and supporters: Simon Hodgkiss Rogers, David Accies Clay, Jenny Eales of Random Scottish History, Big Madge at Big Madge Studios, Dilly Blase, PJ Hart, Jerry Carroll, Kevin Logan, Katie Marshall, Luke Bannon, Top Heckler, Mr. E, Sean Shatty Rat, Mark Telfer, True Radio, Susanna Raymond, and David McGuinness. The good man McGuinness hosts a Christmas Day live stream for those who are spending it alone. That's on the 2Davies channel at 12 midday. So check in if you're in the vicinity. I know I will. Thanks to anyone I've not mentioned and should have. All those who made their work available through Creative Commons licenses, and to my patrons at patreon.com/Andy Luke. There, the assembled pounds pay my internet bill and keep the lights on. Hark the herald angel sings, who put bacon foil on my wings? Dear God, why name me Hark? A better name would be Jim Bob or Noel. Noel Edmonds, Fight Club Vanderboos and Chegwin. Let poor Keith out from your cellar. Fight injustice like no justice, Helena. Away in prison manger, palm oil and GM, their packaging's polluting and human rights. They shouldn't have named their company so famed to coincide with a Christmas carol for me to rhyme in shame. Well, I wish it could be Christmas, December 25th day, but the hate preachers say heathens took it away. Well, that suits me just fine because I like to dream of those fundamentalists suffering aneurysm. So let the aneurysms ring out for Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Let the aneurysms ring out for Christmas. Merry Christmas, screen cleaners, and a Happy New Year. Ooh.